outside is frightful, and I've got something so delightful. Since there's no place to go. Are we live yet? We're live? Dami, why? Okay, what's going on, guys? It's Thrown Out There Thursday, and we've got Santa here with his brand new sled. But we also have the world record holders, Evolution Powersports, in the house to go over their world record car. And in order to talk about that world record car, we got to go over to Justin Smith.
Thank you very much, Santa. Appreciate the introduction, but we also want to tell you guys the views of Santa Claus do not necessarily reflect the views of Shock Therapy or Evo anywhere in this video. You might find out why I said that as this video goes along. Right, Todd?
Yeah.
We're going over it. But yeah, we got special guests in the house. We got Todd and Brandon from Evo. They also brought over their world record speed setting car for half mile?
Half mile, or speed, yeah, and a half mile.
A speed and a half mile. And with a power sports based engine, which we'll talk about that a little bit, and some other fun stuff. Santa's sleigh, of course, daily driver. But I know you guys are going to have a ton of questions because there's been a lot of chatter about how this car did what it did, how some of that stuff is even possible. Maybe the Evo guys will let you know a little bit of the secrets that go involved or are involved and what go into getting this thing to go 100 and almost 58 miles an hour, which is actually a question I've gotten a bunch on with people that have seen the video, that the in-car footage shows 158. You know, why didn't you get 158? And I think that's just because you crossed the finish line a little bit before that 158. Right?
Yeah, and the Motec only gives whole numbers. Is that
Well,
it rounds?
It was the drag info, but yeah, so on the Motec dash, we did actually hit 158. So
We'll go with that. It's a lot easier to
Well,
say
we'll
than
claim it.
157.89 miles an hour all video long, right? But if you guys have any questions, please send it right now. We are going to get those answered for you right this second with the guys that can answer them. But a couple of things I'm going to start with. Todd, how much horsepower does it take to go 158 miles an hour and a half a mile? Do you know? Would you let anyone know what actually is in this thing for horsepower?
Yeah, I would.
I didn't think you would say yes. Well, he said yes, doesn't mean he's going to tell you.
Oh, is that a question?
Yeah, so, okay, let me rephrase that as a question. How much horsepower does this vehicle have? Can you answer that right this second?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Brandon, how much horsepower does this thing have?
turn all the way up, 800.
800?
800.
I think you're full of it. I think that they're sandbagging right this second, and I think it's way higher than that. Oh, Santa.
Justin, Michael J. Fox just tuned in, and he's asking, does it have 1.21 gigawatts?
Gigawatts.
No, it's
Gigawatts.
giga.
Giga.
Yeah,
That's how he
Close
pronounced. That's
enough.
how he spelled it. It's gigas.
close enough.
I thought, yeah, I mean, with Michael J. Fox chiming in, that has something to do with time travel. You guys went as fast as. Do you feel younger having gone that fast? Because you look a little older after
bit.
going that fast.
A little bit. A couple years.
Now, if you guys honestly are going with this 800 horsepower thing, is there any other details you can let out? How about what you guys are running for the engine package? How many cc is in this engine?
1,200.
1,200 cc. How much boost do you guys run?
60 plus.
60 plus pounds of boost. 60 plus. Do you guys have any idea how much that is? That's 3.5 times more than stock. I mean, we can't even run more than 24 pounds of boost in a stock engine without completely turning that into a grenade. So there must have been a lot of effort getting to that point and testing in time, dyno time on this thing. Do you guys know how many dyno pulls you have on this?
We don't have a lot of dyno time. It's really hard to dyno this car with the clutching, and it's not easy. It's easy for us to go out and actually put it in the field and kind of test it that way.
So what are the limitations when it comes to clutching on a dyno versus out in the field?
The dyno doesn't give a realistic load that's comparable to what we'll see in the field. So that's why we could clutch the car for the dyno, but it wouldn't really translate to anything we would do in the field. So that's why it's, instead of doing double time on the motor on the drivetrain, it's just easier to go out and just do it in the field. Do it
So
once.
where do you go to run 100 and plus miles an hour for testing?
Mexico.
Mexico.
Were they're okay with it?
Yeah.
What kind of fuel you guys running in this thing? Now, remember, you guys, I might know a lot of the answers to these questions, but I'm just asking for you because you're not asking yourself. Fuel, what are you guys running?
Methanol.
Methanol straight?
Straight methanol.
No mix, no nitro in there at all?
No M5, just straight M1 or methanol.
Have you
Nothing
guys thought
special.
about going a little bit more nasty for horsepower reasons, or you don't need it anyway?
There's easier ways to get it.
Okay, more boost. Santa,
Jesse Pinkman and Walter White just tuned in and want to know if you could use their meth to run your car.
you might go faster. You might, well, unfortunately, the side effect is they probably take all the electronics apart in the whole car and can't put it back together. So maybe not a good idea. We'll buy it out of the can instead.
What were their names again?
Jesse Pinkman and Walter White.
Okay.
Yes. How about clutching? That, I mean, we're talking about not being able to simulate everything to be able to test that, right? But I mean, I would if I was watching this and I was just driving my standard X3, wonder how the heck when I'm stopped at 85 miles an hour and maybe get a flash from you guys and step that up to 95 or higher, how the heck can you even gearing wise go 150 or 60 miles an hour? So how did you accomplish that?
You want?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
what?
mean, so transmission-wise, you can't run stock trans at that speed. So we do have an overdrive trans. But clutching-wise, we worked with tap clutches, which you can see right over here. I'm gonna come around here. So we worked really closely with tap to get a clutching package that works well for this horsepower and speed and can hold a belt, at 700 horsepower for 15 seconds and not just shred it to nothing. We did a lot of testing, a lot of just R&D with Alan from TAP, and I can safely say that clutching for that speed run was dialed. Both high-speed runs we did, hopped right out of the car. You can put your hand right on the clutches, no heat hardly at anything. So it.
I mean, is clutch the only way you got the gearing to do that, or you have to change the gearing in the trans as well?
Yeah, so we changed gearing in the trans. So we did do a high-speed trans, about 20% overdrive.
Did you guys have to build all those parts, or is that available?
That's available so on this trans, we have the Turner, what they call a double overdrive. So you can just call up Turner and get the parts.
Easy. So
problem.
what are some of the other restrictions that held you guys back on any of this stuff? I mean, you got horsepower. It's got to go through the belt. It's got to get through that trans gear. Got to get to the hub. And on the tire, you have any tire issues, any axle issues with this?
No, tires good. The tires actually help because they're taller. But I think the biggest limitation that we've run into thus far has been aerodynamics. Getting the car to flow through the air at that speed is difficult.
Before you go into the aero, Santa, I think you got another question. Or is it Mitch? Santa's helper, Mitch.
Is it still covered under factory warranty?
I'd have to, yes, I believe it is.
Yep. Hit up your local dealership. I'm sure they'll help you out very, very quickly. Not. Santa, did you have something else? You were very excited over there.
Yeah, Gorilla Tape wants to know if that tape helps you go faster.
Well, we're talking about aero specifically. So you guys had to deal with a lot that nobody else has really thought about because they haven't gone 160 miles an hour. So what was the stuff that you had run into? Obviously, you're trying to tape up all these seams to keep things from moving around, but how'd you know that other than seeing it? Did you feel it? Was it just getting sketchy? What was the first thing that sparked that?
So I used to do a lot of high-speed airport racing for the past, 20 years.
Which would be like half mile, 1 mile?
It started out at 1 mile, then when the cars got too fast for 1 mile, we went to half mile. But taping up all the body lines is something that definitely does help. So yeah, just getting rid of all these air channels where air can flow. The bodywork is not very well attached to the underbody, so it'll tend to flap and whatnot. So this just helps keep everything together and just gets rid of some of the hard transitions of where the air can flow.
So I'm not sure if anybody watching this knows, sorry, I'm the one kicking your expensive carbon fiber over here. But Brandon was actually the one driving the car in this race. And so when you're doing your thing, you were mentioning earlier that it was kind of stable until a point. And then what was that point and what did it do?
Yeah, so up to 140, 145, car is flawless. I mean, you can drive the thing with one hand, no big deal. But at 150 plus, that first run, man, the dash started moving, the front end started getting a little bit of lift on it. So at 150 plus, it seems like the aero really changes. And, you know, it's obviously where there's gains to be had for the next run. And you know,
What were you feeling in the aero that made you know that it had changed and that was a problem compared to 10 mile an hour before that?
Really, so with the front end, you know, on a Can-Am, you get quite a bit of toe movement with when it goes up and down and cycles through the suspension. So as we got to speed, we started getting some front end lift, which really kind of ended up putting us at a neutral toe. And at a neutral toe at that speed, the car wants to kind of walk a little bit. So that was kind of one of the signs I knew, and made a few adjustments for the second run, which helped a little bit. But
A little more toe in to try and cover that. Did it try and suck you out of the car? Did you feel it lift up your helmet? Because I've seen,
oh yeah, for sure.
you know, like all of a sudden it's down here and the strap is tight right here.
Yeah, so at speed, I mean, you definitely gotta
Tuck your chin down, otherwise it's coming off.
Yes, that was interesting.
What do you guys think you're going to do if before the next event to try and cure some of that? Maybe kind of a more body work inside the car that surrounds you flat and stop some of that turbulence inside, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Kind of like a little, you know, half windshield, and we'll play with heights to, you know, see where exactly the good point is, where we're not creating too much drag, but throwing the air over the cab for the most part.
If it wasn't aero that you're going to play with, and we said, hey, they're doing another one of these races tomorrow, then what would you change after what you learned the first time to go faster?
Suspension, and probably throw a little more power at it.
More power, and then on the suspension side, just kind of cover the front and make sure that it's not an issue at that speed?
Yeah, for sure. Cover the front and, you know, see if we can get the car a little bit lower. One of the big things we focused on was trying to get the car level at speed under power, which the electronic shocks really helped with that. Dual live valve, I mean.
Thank you for the segue into talking about those. We had a lot of people asking us a lot of questions about what was so special about the shocks that are on this, and the major question I know you guys got was, why are they upside down?
Yep. So
Well, they're very. I'll let you guys in on the secret as we're looking at these. These are a very, very special set of shocks. Everything about them internally is completely backwards, so they'll function upside down. That's the only way this stuff actually works. We're trying to save, drop weight on the bottom and keep the car lower and more stable and all that. But the truth is, I'm actually full of crap, and it does not matter whatsoever. Shocks do not care whether they're mounted upside down, sideways, or backwards. They function just fine no matter where they're at. The cool thing about these, well, maybe let me tell you the reason why they're mounted upside down on this car. It's basically shock mounting is the only reason why, and clearance. Because these shocks were hand-built by us and Rick Strobel at the Fox Race Department. It's a combination of a lot of pieces and parts, like bodies and caps from early Wildcat stuff, and internals and shaft assemblies from Smart Shocks off of Can-Ams. The bridge, or basically body cap, which is on the bottom of this shock, the way you're looking at it, holding the reservoir with that live valve in it. That assembly is from another vehicle. That none of that stuff ever existed. But the cool thing about these is it's got a live valve control for the compression side, and it's got a smart shock live control on the shaft side, which controls a rebound. So these are the only set in the world that do that until the new Pro R shocks came out, the X2s, which have both rebound and compression adjustment on them. But this shock can be controlled by the Motec system in this car. So it's not your typical ECU that you get on a Smart Shock car or a Dynamics car at all. It's literally the Motec giving electronic signals to those adjusters to control both compression and rebound throughout really any point in time, right? Dom, you got a question?
Well, speaking of Motec, Speed Inc. says switch the Motec back into miles per hour.
Oh, I see. They're trying to say that you guys are 158 kilometers. It's Santa. Very funny.
Yes.
So, was it kilometers, Todd? Just to set the record straight?
No.
Santa, you got another one?
Yeah, this is a question specifically for Brandon. Ricky Bobby just tuned in and wants to know if you prayed to 8 pound, 6 ounce sweet baby Jesus before you took off for the world record, sir.
I sure did.
Your life flashed before your eyes at any moment? Was it? You didn't get sketchy, so I guess
we
not.
trained
but-
with a tiger in the back seat, so it helped.
Good one. Well, so you might be able to speak a little bit to the Motec controls in this stuff because, originally the idea here was to be able to control compression and rebound throughout the first few seconds of a drag launch in the sand. And we've done a bit of work with that, and obviously you guys are kicking ass in that department as well, so they do work. But how do you control it with the Motec versus anything else?
Really, it's just, we send a specific amperage to the valve and it changes the position. So, we basically just control it by duty cycle on the ECU, individually on each shock, compression and rebound. So what we do, we base it on time after launch. And, so like on the sand stuff, we have breakdowns of 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, 300 milliseconds, 400 milliseconds. And we can change those shocks kind of throughout as we see the track change. So if we have a bump that's 2 seconds out, we can stiffen it up and then soften it up right again so we can get the power back to the rear tires. For the high-speed stuff, we ended up going out to 10 seconds because it was a 15-second pull or something like that. So the surface was really slippery for the first 300 feet, 400 feet. So we really tried to soften those things up to get the rear tires to hook, take off, and then as we got traction, we could bring some of that stiffness back in so it's stable at speed, and we kept the car level. So it was really crucial to everything we did out there and still do in the sand.
Santa says that Lindsay has a question.
So Jacob Zaccone just tuned in. He said, "Why didn't you pull the chute? Are you a girl or something?"
Well, there may be a little bit of that, but I was there's a lot going on at 157, 158 miles an hour, and car's a little sketchy, but ultimately we had plenty of stopping power with our new big brakes, so I didn't actually need to use the chute.
What big brakes have you running?
There are new EVP mode big brakes, so we're running them front and rear. They're oversized rotors, front and rear, a little bit better rotor design, billet calipers, and they definitely work a ton better, especially stopping from that kind of speed.
Where can people get those?
They're going to be released first of the year.
Awesome. New product. There you go. Dropped something new everybody needs to know about.
Yeah, and to the parachute, the risk reward wasn't there. I mean, yeah, it would have been a cool photo, but there's a lot that can go wrong, and it wasn't necessary. So why take the risk?
Yeah, I mean, unless you've done a lot of testing, I've seen guys use chutes that pull that back tires off the ground when they pop, and
Yep.
then you're really on for a ride.
Yeah.
And you really have to dial that in. Santa, are you in the house again? What do you got?
You're never going to guess who tuned in, Justin.
Oh, who is it, Santa?
Brittany Griner said Russia would have traded 2 arms dealers for that car.
The one time she is right. Yeah, I think she nailed it on that one. Some of the other things that
She or he?
yeah, good one, good one. And that's Santa's opinion, by the way.
Yes, it was.
Not Evo or Shock Therapy's
Because I heard
opinion.
both.
Yes, it was me.
Okay.
It was I.
Thank you, Santa.
Yes.
Politically incorrect Santa. I wanted to know how much this thing weighed. And the reason I wanted to know is because I could see that being a very big problem at 150 miles an hour. If you don't have the weight in the right place, or if it's too light, or if it's too heavy, it's a lot to consider until you actually test at 150. You don't know.
Yes, for sure. With me in the car, I want to say we're right around 1625-ish.
Wow, that's pretty light. I mean, the factory one, there's nothing factory on this, right? But factory cars are 1675 empty.
Yep.
Before you add somebody to it and all the things that you guys have done to it. So there's extensive work. I can see titanium all over this thing. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so we have basically front, upper, lower control arms. We have titanium rear trailing arms. And we do have some carbon fiber radius rods, which we ran for the event. Those will be out shortly. But really, we did kind of everything we could to lighten the car up with this package. Our main goal As far as weight placement was to get it 50-50 from left to right. So in the sand, when we do a wheelie, car goes straight, doesn't turn left to right.
Perfect. Why don't you tell everybody about those radius rods?
Yes, these are new carbon fiber radius rods. So Shock Therapy is machining all of the billet pieces for us in-house. Those will be out probably first quarter 23, but we've done a lot of testing with them. I think including the pull plate, we saved close to 11 pounds over a similar aftermarket setup. So
11 pounds, 10 more times. That's a massive amount of weight.
Yeah.
It's hard to pull it off. It's really easy to put it on.
no, for sure, for sure.
I know that every time I eat lunch. But hey, Dom, you have a question over there?
Yeah, John Crowley wants to know if the Polaris Razor would go that fast.
Why didn't you just ask John?
Oh, Grandpa is here. Here, John.
I didn't ask that question, but what is this button right here for? It says off,
That's the oh shit button.
but it's outside the car.
Well, I mean,
Is that for safety crews?
yeah, for the most
Yes.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
is that a requirement by rule, or is that just having fun and giving something to do?
It's a requirement for Sand Outlaw. They require it on the right side of the car, and then we also have one on the back of the car for NHRA when we start doing some asphalt stuff.
Ooh, asphalt in your future. What have you guys got for plans there?
You wanna? So, we've got some asphalt plans for sure. We plan to do some more 1/8 mile and quarter mile stuff.
Very, very cool. Any predictions on quarter mile times and mile an hour?
Goal's definitely 8-second in the quarter.
8-second quarter. That's pretty impressive. So probably in the 140s as well. 50s,
Yeah, for sure.
Somewhere in that range.
For sure.
Trans gear change, complete clutch change, I would imagine, and different theories on what we're going to do for shock.
Very similar clutching and trans setup for that, but definitely a different shock package, tire package.
Very, very cool. Yeah, Lindsay.
So we've had some people call it a pavement princess or trailer queen. Have we raced in the dirt? Are we racing in the sand? What's the plan there?
Well, we drove it here, so
I will tell you guys, absolutely. They drove it from their shop all the way over here. And, you know, who the hell are you saying this is a trailer queen or whatever princess? Who cares? Is it a requirement that you drive your personal car down to the track and it does 160? And your personal car, I don't even get that question. Just trying to stir the pot and be a dick, I guess.
All good.
But I don't think you can call this thing either of those.
No,
I mean,
me
you guys
neither.
drive it all the time.
Yeah, and we beat the hell out of it, and it just takes the abuse.
And so now we've got drag racing coming up. You've got this half-mile thing that you've done. You've already got sand drags that it does. We can change the shock, and this thing will go in the dunes in a heartbeat,
Oh,
which I
absolutely.
would imagine you're probably going to do.
It's a plan after Sand Outlaws.
Oh, see, there you go. So much for a trailer queen. I just, whatever. They can suck it. Yeah, Santa, speaking of sucking it.
Santa always comes early, guys. Chuck Yeager said, "Call me when you are ready to go fast."
Oh, well, he has you on that one, that's for sure. So what's the fastest that you've been ever, not necessarily in one of these?
Right about that speed, 160, 165.
In a car?
Yeah,
Okay.
whole
Todd?
lot of.
234
234 in a car?
in a car.
Same thing. So where I was going with that is if you'd already been, 300 miles an hour, that might have been easier to do, but at 150 max before, then that's a big deal. Trying to figure that out when you got there the first time at 160. So a lot of people can't say they've ever gone that fast, that's for sure. Mitch.
Scout Racing wants to know: is the drive shaft stock or is it carbon?
Well, it doesn't have four-wheel drive in it.
It's a Bluetooth drive shaft. It's one of those new upgrades. Yeah, SEMA build.
So
You can
no
see it.
front diff. If you take a look inside that frame section, you see that's pretty much hollow. It's one of the window diffs, but so
See-through.
no drive shaft. Maybe he is asking about axle, so I'll ask that just in case that's what he meant. What axles are in this?
We have Turner rear axles, so it's their strongest axle they offer with our, we modified the CVs and just a couple of tricks in there.
Is it still a UTV or Can-Am base CV, or is it up to like 930 or something bigger?
It is a UTV CV.
Still.
Yeah, so stock Can-Am X3 plug and play from
Design.
Turner. Yeah, correct.
Awesome. Dom or Santa? What do you guys got going on over there? No, Dom's got something.
Well, Hot Wheels tuned in and they asked if they could make a model of your car.
Licensing fees in the works, you guys? Thought
do
about
it.
that?
Let's do it.
You're up
Oh,
on
look,
it.
F1 too. Shock technology. They definitely want it.
Sponsorship for 2023 is open.
Yep.
That would be pretty sick if F1 wanted to do anything that we're doing, that's for sure. You know what? Since we kind of are running out of a couple of questions, Todd, why don't you guys talk about your street? This is definitely a street princess.
Yes, this is a
not a
street car.
trailer queen. But what's going on with the black car here?
So this is a car that we decided to build like 3 weeks before the Sandsport show this year. And kind of the way I look at this car, it's kind of a blending of, so I used to do the same thing but for automobiles. And so this is kind of like the merging of the automobile world that I came from into the off-road space. So this is kind of just our take on, you know, what one of these as a road car would look like. So we've done obviously some aero to the car, you know, side skirts, a rear diffuser. It runs our same carbon radius rods. Same clutch setup with the tap primary and our Shift Tech secondary open clutch cover. Runs our big brakes.
It's missing a turbo on that one.
This one? Yeah, it's missing one turbo. Yeah. Doesn't have two turbos, but still makes about 350 horsepower, which is plenty for the street.
Is this thing going to see the track, like road course stuff?
Yeah, so that is our plan with the car. Our plan is to do some road course stuff with it. Our ultimate goal is to build one of these for Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So I don't know if that'll happen this next year, but it is something we've kind of toyed around with.
Pikes Peak would be badass. I mean, that would be something that everybody, you know, knows and get a lot of exposure when you go and run that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's definitely a race that horsepower is king at with the elevation climb. What was the difference between start and finish on that race?
It's like, what, 6,000 feet?
I think it starts at 8,000 and ends at 14.
14, so
Something
quite a
like that.
bit. I mean, like 100 horsepower drop in most engine stuff.
Yeah, and we talked about that. I mean, for definitely if we build a Pikes Peak car, it will run a compound turbo system because that turbocharger setup is capable of making 300 horsepower at sea level as well as 300 horsepower up at elevation. So
How does that turbo manage the difference, or how does it different than a normal turbo that it would do that? Is it just run and boost up to get the power back, or is it
well,
changing?
you've got a high pressure turbocharger and a low pressure turbocharger. And the way those two interact, you're basically just, Brandon, you can.
Maybe you
Yeah,
can,
I can kind of
maybe
explain
you
a
can
little
show us
bit.
a little bit while you're talking about it.
So basically, you have your low pressure turbo, which is typically your bigger turbo, and your high pressure turbo, which is typically your smaller turbo. And basically, here's your low pressure turbo, and essentially, this turbo feeds your little turbo. So ideally, your high pressure turbo will essentially sit at a specific pressure ratio. So, you know, say you feed it 10 pounds of boost, it's gonna, you know, if you have a 2-to-1 pressure ratio, it's gonna come out where it's, you know, 20 pounds of boost. So it can make it really efficient. So this low pressure turbo feeds it, and it also sucks the exhaust side too. So it makes your high pressure turbo very efficient, and the more boost you can feed your high pressure turbo, the higher boost that can make and multiply.
So when it comes to altitude and the air thins out, then it really helps the whole situation. Yeah. All the way around. Now that you guys have set a new world speed record for half mile and UTV powered stuff, do you have any other ideas or things you're going to go jump on that are more speed records? Oh, Santa, what's wrong?
Justin, Speed just tuned in, and they want you to know that they own all the patents on all speed records, and they want to get paid. So I think we need to call it the Go Fast record, just so there's not any cease and desist going on.
I'm sorry about that, Santa. I really apologize. We don't want to have any licensing problems.
Never
Todd,
again.
Do you have any go fast records you want to go out and break?
Well, I'd like to break this one.
Oh, go back and break the 158.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this setup's got a lot more in it.
Do they have more events at that local spot that you can go
Yeah,
to
they
right
do
away?
2 a year, but we're going to one in Texas in March, where we can try to break some other records.
So everybody should tune in March to all of our social medias, right?
Yes.
And they can see you guys doing your thing. Excellent, excellent. Is there anything else that you guys want to let everybody know on all this? Anything coming out that people should be aware of besides the front brake kit?
I don't know. Anything else,
You
Brandon?
guys are always in the works. It's just whether you want.
Yeah, well,
whether
that's
you
what I'm
wanna
trying
say
to
it or
figure
not.
out.
What
There's a
things can I
lot of
talk
stuff
about?
in the works, but
That's where I screw up. I tell everybody about some of the stuff coming out, and then I get in trouble.
yeah. Yes, ProArt Turbo Kit's been in development for a while, and we are getting very close to having something that we want to release to the public. But that's probably another couple, maybe another month away.
Awesome. Well, I think a lot of people that, with the popularity that Pro are, I think you guys are going to be extremely busy with that. I know that we've been busy doing nothing but those. Dom.
Real question, Todd. Have you driven it that fast, or will you drive it that fast?
No, so this is Brandon's baby, and I don't want to get involved in Brandon's baby.
Definitely not wrong.
I was going to talk a bunch of smack about you not wanting to go that fast, but we already know you've always been faster than that, so I can't. Commendable you let him run with it, and great job with both you guys on this thing for sure. Mitch.
Cody wants to know, why not do this with a 4-seat chassis? Wouldn't that be a lot more stable?
So this is not, this is obviously a 2-seat chassis, but we've lengthened this chassis. It's kind of somewhere in between a 2-seat and a 4-seat. I don't think having a longer wheelbase is, I don't know, I don't really see it helping us much.
Past a certain point, it's not going to give you the gain, I think, that he's expecting out of it. Right?
Yeah, if we were trying to do whoops with it, yes, but I think we've got a good balance between lightweight and a wheelbase that works.
Good question, that's for sure. Cool. If you guys are out of questions, then I think we might wrap this up, which means I want to say thank you to Todd and Brandon and Evo in general, as a whole, for bringing up everything over here that we could take a look at. Really cool toys, and talking, honestly, sharing a lot more than I thought you guys would share about a record-breaking car or a go-fast record. But I think that there's more to come. You guys tune into their social media when they're going out and doing more stuff. You might see some more records being broken. And in the meantime, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And speaking of Christmas, Santa, why don't you take us out of here?
Guys, if you want to buy anything from Evolution Powersports, visit evopowersports.com. Or if you want anything Shock Therapy, www.shocktherapyusa.com. Or if you have any questions, call in 623-217-4959 and have a Merry effing Christmas.